I'm joined now by the author of the bill to compel the release of the Epstein Files, Ro Khanna. Congressman, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, congratulations on getting this thing through the House, through the Senate, 427-1 in the House, unanimous in the Senate. So I got to ask first and foremost, is there anything that you anticipate Donald Trump doing to kind of weasel his way out of signing this bill?
No, he said he's going to sign it. I expect him to sign it. It's a huge historic day for survivors. We are going to hold the Epstein class accountable. Jeffrey Epstein set up a rape island, over 1,000 victims. The survivors spoke so movingly today, talking about being raped and abused at the age of 14, 15. Finally, they're going to have justice. And, finally, Brian, Congress found its spine. We don't have to be supine and supplicants to Donald Trump. We're a co-equal branch of government. And you know what happens when we build interesting coalitions and stand up? Then we don't surrender to Donald Trump. Donald Trump surrenders to us. His entire power is based on intimidation and preemptive compliance. And today, I hope we've showed that Congress is capable of taking the fight to Donald Trump and winning, and that we actually have power to stand up to this president.
Did you have any concern prior to the bill passing by unanimous consent in the Senate? Did you have any concern that Mike Johnson was laying the foundation to be able to say, okay, well, look, it passed the House, but certainly some things that need to be changed once this thing gets into the Senate. We have to, and we had spoken about this last time, this idea that we have to offer up more protections for the survivors and on, and that, of course, that would give the Senate the opportunity to maybe put some poison pill in that wouldn't pass the House, just gum up the works, basically. So did you have any concern about the prospect of that happening? And then what was your reaction to the fact that John Thune just didn't acquiesce to Mike Johnson's demands and just passed it, allowed Chuck Schumer to pass it anyway?
I got to tell you, Donald Trump hung Mike Johnson out to dry. No one looked worse today than Mike Johnson. I mean, first he gets 427 members voting for a bill that he's opposed. He himself votes for a bill that he opposed. And then he's desperately trying to slow it down in the Senate. And Thune says, no, we're not going to upset so many Americans and be on the wrong side of survivors. So they pass it and defy him. I mean, he's basically totally ineffective at this point. And he looks bitter and angry. And Donald Trump now is going to sign it. So this is showing how you build a coalition about to assert Congress's power and to defeat the extremism.
The number one question that I've been getting as I've been, as I live streamed the House vote, for example, is how can we trust whatever comes out of Pam Bondi's DOJ? That if Donald Trump is going to sign this bill, there's no way that he's going to just relinquish all of his power, release the Epstein Files in full. And so how can you have some confidence, some trust in whatever comes out of Pam Bondi's office, that it's the real thing?
Well, first of all, we know what is in these files. We know that they're rich and powerful men who abuse these women. How do we know? Because I've talked to survivors, lawyers who've seen the files. I've talked to survivors who know what's in some of these files. And we have independent documents coming from the Epstein estate. So if they play games, we will be able to call them out on that. There are also former Justice Department officials who've seen the files. Second, now it is going to become a criminal offense for a Justice Department career official not to release these files. So it's no longer Pam Bondi or Donald Trump, and you're thinking, are you upsetting them or not? Now you have a law that Congress has passed. And if you are overseeing the reporting to Congress or the release of these files, you're going to think twice about what if there's a President Gretchen Whitmer in 2029? Do I really want to take the risk of breaking the law? Do I really want to take the risk of being hauled in front of Congress when Robert Garcia is the chair of the Oversight Committee? So this law, I think people don't understand what a big deal it is. It's not some kind of resolution or we'd like you to release the files. This is saying it is a law of the United States signed by the President of the United States that you must release these files. And if you don't, you're in contempt of Congress and subject to criminal prosecution.
Is there a world? I mean, we have seen the extent to which Trump is willing to abuse the pardon power. And so if somebody is charged with a federal crime, for example, don't they just have Trump as a backstop to be able to, offer him up a get out of jail free card if he wants to?
Yes, that's why I'm for getting rid of the constitutional power of pardon. We should have a constitutional amendment to get rid of the pardon power. Trump has abused it terribly. Frankly, I think other presidents have abused it in the past. But the issue here is it's going to be very hard to prosecute some of these people who abused girls. I mean, it was years ago. I'm not saying obviously there should be prosecution if the evidence rises to it. But one thing that we should do is hold them accountable. They shouldn't be naming buildings after them. They shouldn't be sitting on boards of corporations. They shouldn't be teaching at prestigious places. They need to be held accountable. And that, I think, will happen based on this release.
If, for example, there is some suspected nefarious behavior regarding the release of these files, would it also be possible to bring someone like Maureen Comey, who was the assistant U.S. attorney, who was involved in this whole Epstein process, to come and testify before Congress?
Absolutely. But this is why it matters that we take back Congress, because if we take back Congress, we could have someone like her help testify. We can have the survivors' lawyers, of course, testify, and we can hold people in contempt if they're not complying with the law. But the risk here for people who are career justice lawyers is, do they really want to violate the law? Right now, it's sort of, okay, Donald Trump is telling me don't release the Epstein file, but there's no law saying that they have to release the Epstein files. It was just that Donald Trump promised this. So, okay, they're not violating any law. Now, if they're not releasing the files or they're redacting things or scrubbing things, suddenly you're violating a congressional law. And that's a very, very dangerous thing, and it raises the stakes for people.
Doesn't all of this feel kind of roundabout, given the fact that you had to go through the House, you have to go through the Senate, you have to get this bill on Trump's desk to get his signature, when in reality, all Trump needed to do was just release the files. Like, he had the power to do this today, yesterday, the day before, the week before, months ago, and yet, doesn't all of this seem like a very roundabout way of getting him to do the thing that he already has the power to do?
He does have the power to do it, but I think it's really important that Congress woke up and did this, because the whole point is that we have co-equal branches of government and that Donald Trump doesn't get to call the shots on everything. Yes, he could have and should have released the files, but now we're going to force his hand. We're going to force the administration to do something. There has not been another single case where we have successfully pushed back with Donald Trump and Donald Trump has caved in his entire presidency and even in the last term. Here you have Donald Trump, who's literally going to sign a progressive Bay Area Democrats bill, and he was compelled to do it. And Thune is compelled to vote for it, and the Speaker is compelled to vote for it. The lesson of this is, I'm sick of hearing Democrats say we can't do anything. We're in the minority. We can't stand up to him. He's too powerful. He's acting too lawlessly. Be more creative. Be bolder. Be dynamic. Reassert the power of Congress. Find the way to stand up to him. We stood up to him. He caved. And that should be a lesson for Democrats across this country.
Perfect place to leave off. Congressman, thank you again on behalf of a lot of people who are watching, on behalf of the survivors, for your work in getting this thing over the finish line, and for piercing this bubble of that Donald Trump has total control, because I think this was a very telling instance where we saw so many people push back against him, and this was really the first instance of massive defections against this president. So I appreciate that and appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for your leadership advocacy.